Donald Trump. So how should he handle this thing? Hurting him because a lot of Americans are saying, now, pandemic, race problems. There's a poll that said 80% of Americans are unhappy with the state of the country now. I'm unhappy with it. You happy with it? I don't know anybody skipping down the street during the pandemic and the race stuff. You know anybody? I don't. And you know, if you're the leader, even if it's not fair, it goes on you. Now, I understand that Donald Trump is going to do a speech. Okay, we'll see. Today, he signed an executive order I'll get to later, trying to get the police stuff under control. But how does he handle it? Because his opponent, Joe Biden, Democratic Party, they're going to virtue signal all day long. They're not going to go up against Black Matters. It's going to be, yeah, that's right. We're going to do all of that. Whatever they want, we're going to do. See it in Seattle now. See what's happening. Whatever they want, we're going to do. So what does Trump do? He can't do that. But if he goes out and he starts to call out people, as he usually does, and he's a racist, and then all hell breaks loose there. But I'm going to tell you, if he wants to win in November, he's got to do fairness. He's got to say, I'm going to be the president of fairness. To African Americans who aren't being treated fairly, I'm going to be your champion. And to Caucasian Americans and other people, I'm going to be your champion as well. I'm not going to support reparations. I'm not taking money out of your pocket to give to another group. I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to support the police to the extent that we're not going to defund them. We're not going to let what's happening in Seattle happen. He's got to run on order, law, and fairness. But fairness is the most important. Now, nowhere in all of this is the solution to racial animus in America, and that is education. I wrote a column on it, a long column. Now, people say, well, it's the dissolution of the family, and that's true. But the government cannot do anything about that other than to reform some of the welfare laws and entitlements, not to encourage men to leave the family. They could do that. But they can't say to the American people, you have to parent a certain way, you have to stay in the home of your father. They can't do it. What they can do is provide a quality education even in the poorest neighborhoods. The government can do that and is not doing it. All right, let's bring in a guy who can chat about a lot of what I just said. His name is Jack Brewer, former safety in the National Football League. He played for Minnesota, New York Giants, Philadelphia Eagles, Arizona Cardinals. He's the CEO of the Brewer Group, which is a consulting firm. It covers sports, media, financial, but everything comes to us from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. All right, Jack, I'm sorry it took so long to get to you, but as you know, I'm a brilliant man, and a lot of stuff comes out of my mouth. That's a joke. Did I say anything wrong?
No, all respect, Bill. I think, our nation right now needs opinions like yours. They need opinions like mine. But at the end of the day, we have to find common ground. When you said what you said about fatherlessness, you're dead on, and what you said about education, you're dead on. I just think that it's a meeting of the two. When I go into the inner city schools that I work in, and then I go back and look at those same schools' budgets, they're graduating, some of them 40% of the black male. And then you see the amount of money that they're actually spending, and they're spending more money per kid than I spend to send my kid to a top private school. That's not right. That's systematic oppression. No matter who puts the system in place, that's not right for the kid that's born into that situation. And so
Now,
I think it does go back to fatherlessness.
I used to teach high school in South Florida. Where do you send your kids?
Well, now I send my kids to Calvary Christian, but I live in Parkland, Florida. But I also run youth program in Broward County for the juvenile kids.
Why do you send your kids to private religious school?
Well, I started off sending my kids to private school, and I tried a year of public school, and he came home one day in tears that the teacher made him tuck his cross in his shirt, but she let everyone else keep all of their symbols on their necklaces out. That was enough for me. I didn't want my kid to be subjected to this leftist mentality that pushes these kids away from God, but yet they teach these kids they can go in any bathroom they choose. So those things for me are non-starters. So I decided to take my kids out of that environment and put them around some Christian teaching, Christian love, and beliefs that fit our home.
I did the same thing with my children. Same exact thing. Pretty much for the same reason that I didn't want a secular education for them because it wasn't an educated education, if you know what I mean. The teachers weren't informed enough about history, about theology, about anything to really be effective to the kids. Now, I read your point of view and I know what you say when you go to speak to groups and all of that. Do you agree with me that with a 75% out of wedlock birth rate, and that's what the African Americans have, that there is really nothing the federal government can do to overcome that in an economic way?
In an economic way, maybe, but I think the infrastructure could change in a way that would allow men like you and myself to go in and actually help bridge that gap. I've done that. I've started to do that in Broward County with our programs. I've done that with our American Heroes programs, bringing in athletes and influencers who care about these kids to help bridge the gap. You see, my issue is that the money is being spent. It's just how it's being spent. For $20,000 per student per year, you should be able to support every inner city kid with the opportunity.
Absolutely. It's 30,000 in New York City, and they still
Yeah.
can't do the math, and they can't do the science, and they can't read, and they can't write. But it's because, Jack.
So Bill,
wait a minute. Here's why here's why the money doesn't work. Because there is no discipline in the public school systems. So if the kid decides, I'm not going to do any homework, there's no sanction. If the kid decides, I'm going to be disruptive, I'm going to use the F word toward the teacher, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, there are no sanctions. So no matter how much money you pour into these places, it's going to be chaos. And that's exactly what's happening.
Bill, at a certain age, though, you can speak to these kids, right? If you start to these kids when they're 7, 8, 9 years old, and you put in an after-school program where they have an influential person helping them with their homework after school and holding these kids accountable in a way that a father would normally do, I've seen the benefits of that be positive.
But who's going to do that? The principals and the school boards are absolutely afraid of singling out minorities, not just African Americans, but any minority, and say, well, we got to keep these kids after school, and these kids need a mentor. Some parents will cooperate, but many won't.
I've just experienced something different. I've seen parents who beg me, and I run a parenting program actually right now in Broward County, and the single moms come in and say, Jack, we need men like you. Can you come and talk to my son after school? Can he spend some time with you? I think there's a lot of people, and the answer to our issues a lot of times is just serving. Is just doing what Jesus told us to do, and actually giving our brothers and sisters a little time. You don't have to spend a career doing it.
Listen,
but most people,
it's great. And I think everybody watching us tonight would say that's tremendous. But there is no drive that I've seen in this country in the public school system to do it. There are
you're right.
Few, but most of them go, well, we're not going to do it.
They've separated those opportunities because they control the money, Bill. So they spend the money between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. when that money should be able to suffice a kid from 8 a.m. until 6:30 p.m. when they go home.
Well, I don't know how you change it. It's so endemic. Do you want reparations for you and your son and your wife?
I don't need reparations. This is what I want. I want exactly what you said and what President Trump has said and what many scholars have said, and that's education. Reparations should come through education. The money for reparations are already there. It's reforming our education system to give these kids school choice, to allow these districts to be held accountable when they're misappropriating all these funds and spending more money than quality private schools. That is a tragedy. It's criminal, and it should be dealt with at the highest level. It is, and it's a lot of the progressive leaders in these cities that are controlling these funds, and it's wrong, Bill. And when our words are strong. And so when you talk about reparations, just handing out people money, you know what happens with somebody when they win the lottery? They normally go broke. And that's not what we need as a nation. But what we do need is a rebalance so that we can give kids that are born into the situation that they have no control over. We give them the ability to have a quality education. I've just seen personally so many successful people who got that education, that had that mentor in their life, and ended up being a very, very beneficial part of the American economy. And I
Look,
think that's where all
I
should be
agree
on.
with you, and you've got it, a clear vision. You're never going to hear it from Black Lives Matter. You're never going to hear it from CNN, the New York Times. You're never going to hear it because they don't want to
But Bill,
solve the problem.
but when you talk about Black Lives Matter, right? Let's look at what that organization does. So they're going off of confusion. And so that's the same thing that the cancel culture is doing. When you cancel someone, that means you destroy them. So their mantra is to destroy. But at the same
Absolutely.
time, a lot of their supporters are confused. There's a lot of good people that support Black Lives Matter. They may not agree with everything that they do, but folks are confused. So
They're
folks are
confused.
so hurt right
You know
in
what I
trying
want
to
you to do,
help.
Jack? I got to let
They
you
need to
go.
clarify.
I want you to call Jennifer Aniston and tell her, okay? Just do me a favor. Yeah, she'll take your call. All
Give,
right, Jack. Keep
give me
fighting
an
the good.
hour. I think I can talk some sense into her.
I hope
I'll
so.
pray
Somebody
for
has to. Keep fighting a good fight down there in Broward County, all right? Keep doing what you're
Man,
doing,
God
Jack.
bless you.
Look, if you
Thank
need
you.
if
Thank
you
you.
need anything from us, you let us know, okay?
I want you to come talk to my kids one day, man.
I'll be down.
That's
I
what I
know a
want you
lot
to
of
do.
people down there. I'm not going down in August, Jack. You're not getting me down there in August.
I don't blame you.
But
Come
next
back
fall and winter,
this winter.
I'll definitely take you up on that offer. Thank you.